y'all, and welcome to today's video. We're going to be ranking all of the palettes that launched this year, that I tried this year. It's going to be a long video because I have 95 palettes. I was shocked when I actually counted them. I'm excited though. It's gonna be a good time. Let's jump into it. Alright y'all, before we get down to the ranking, before we start with number 95 and work our way to the best, I want to let you know that all of these palettes I do have videos on, either dedicated videos, get ready with me's, shorts. I have videos on these products, so if you want to see anything, you can search on my channel the palette name, the brand name. You can search in YouTube Heather Austin, whatever it is you are looking for. So definitely check there if you want more, more information, because today we're gonna be quick. I will have everything listed, linked in the description box to the best of my ability. If I have any affiliate codes with these brands, anything like that, I will pop them on the screen as we talk. Some of these palettes were gifted to me. A lot of them I bought myself, but we're gonna talk about them all. Everything will be in the description box though, and I'm not going to be ranking my collaboration with Unearthly Cosmetics because we're not going to go through, of course, this is number one, okay? This is number one, but that's why it's not even in the ranking, because we're not going to go through 94 palettes for me to say, look, my creation, my baby is number one. No, something else is going to get the number one spot. It's not fair. It's not fair to compare anything else to my Unearthly collaboration. This is still available. It is always linked in my description box, so definitely check there if you're curious. And along with that, I'm not going to be ranking my besties collab, okay? My bestie, Angelica Nikvis, collaborated with Oden's Eye to make two beautiful palettes for Halloween of this year. I love her. I would give her a kidney. Love her, her family, her dogs. I'm not gonna put them in the ranking. She created two beautiful palettes, both quite different from one another in terms of vibe, but both very playful takes on Halloween. But of course, they are perfect for year round. I'm actually not going to be ranking any creator collaborations in this video because I think I'm just going to put those in a separate video. I want every creator who put their heart and their love into palettes to have their own moment and not be compared to other things. So with all that being said, let's talk about 95, kind of the worst thing I tried this year. So as we go, I will pop up the numbers on the screen to kind of help me and you keep track. For 95, I'm going with these little quads from LA Girl. These are a drugstore price point. And when I was doing my ranking, of course, personal preference comes into it. What do I like about shadows? What do I like about color stories? But I also do consider price point. All the factors come in. And I really didn't try a palette this year that I feel is unusable the way makeup could be when I was in college, scraping things, trying to get them to work. Makeup, especially eyeshadows, have come a long way. And I know so many people love these, so don't hate me. I know they're at a low price point. I know they're available at the drugstore, but the pigmentation is so light. And I really have to build these to get them to come through. The shimmers, I feel I really have to layer. They're not it for me. They're not it for me. So I would say those are the least favorite that I tried. Just not my vibe. After that, I'm going to talk about these from Urban Decay. I don't know if me talking about these is what got me like no longer getting PR from Urban Decay. It's all cool. I don't get it. These are the Urban Decay Naked Smiley palettes, and these were so lazy. That's why they're ranking lower for me. I just put these in at one spot because like that's really all I can give them, because we have this so cool packaging, these like holographic smiley faces, all these colors, and then opening it up, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't know. I have like this satiny matte vanilla, a peach matte, and then 4 shimmery shades. Yes, I can do an all shimmery look. I get it. But where is the packaging on here? Like, why couldn't I have had like a matte black and then maybe like a couple of these shimmers, but they could have been more intense? It didn't work. It didn't work. And the same with this one. This could have been something. I like the yellow and the blue together, and I'm not opposed to having a couple of neutrals in there. I get it. But when you have this fun type of packaging and then you open it up and you give me bleh, I'm unimpressed. Like, it feels very unserious to me and not in a fun way. So let's just stop, because I think now we're at 93, and that is the Serendipity palette. Yes, this was sent to me from Cara Beauty. I was very happy to try the brand because I know a lot of y'all told me that you really like Cara Beauty or Cara Beauty. I'm not sure. It's too big. It needed to be edited down. I don't mind a big palette. You're going to see as we go. I have some large palettes really close to the top, like really close to the favorites. But this one is too repetitive. And I think to stay at a lower price point, maybe not do as many shadows and make sure the shadows that are in there are really high quality. I thought overall this was not bad, but like not something I want to play with again. Once I reviewed it, I was kind of like, okay, great, I'm done. I don't have to do that anymore. Next up, I have the e.l.f. and American Eagle collaboration. I have to say, the packaging and the theming, they did 10 out of 10. We have the jeans tag here. I thought that was super cute. We have the mirror here. I thought this palette, again, was fine. It was good. I do prefer the quality of ColourPop. If I'm comparing palettes of a similar size, of a similar price point, I think ColourPop has better formula. I did think these were nice. They just weren't anything that I'm like, oh, I'm really thinking about that palette. I can't wait to use it again. I want to play with it. Like, it was just, like I said, like, it wasn't bad. And again, it's not, I just didn't try bad palettes, but these are ones that like I definitely feel like could use some improvements. The next one, I don't think it needs like improvements necessarily. It's just personal preference. This is the Nomad Air palette. This palette is cute, right? Like, it's cute. There is nothing wrong with it. All 6 shades perform well. It's just not really a palette that I reach for. Usually when I'm going for neutrals, I like a lot of different textures, different finishes. I like very light to very dark. And while we do have beautiful shimmers and we have beautiful mattes, I'm going to reach for even more when I'm doing a neutral look. So I think this is great quality. I really like Nomad. It's just not one that like makes me excited when I'm looking at the other things in my collection. And from there, we move on to number 90. I did put post-it notes so I could keep the numbers straight. Let's talk about the Too Faced Cosmic Crush palette. We're going to talk about a Too Faced palette later in this video that they launched this year that I think is much better than this one. Gorgeous packaging though. I'm telling you, a theme makes me so happy. But this color story, very beautiful. I thought it was really pretty. I really like that we have this green shade and this purple. I do think that, let me see, where was it? A couple of these shimmers are pretty hard pressed. So you definitely have to like really get in there to get color payoff. I think the other shades in here are really pretty and work nicely. A couple of them could be swapped out though. Like, I don't know if we need all of these mattes. Maybe had they taken one of the mattes. Listen, I'm not asking for a ton. I'm not asking for a completely new palette, but just one of these shades that are a little too similar. If they could have given us like a deep dark purple matte, or like this color like green, or the purple like duochrome that it shifts to, if they could have given us a matte in that deep dark color, I think it would have just elevated the palette and made it a lot more versatile in terms of the looks that I could get out of it. Next up, I've got the Wheat Belt palette from Geology Cosmetics. I have their first palette I bought when it launched, and the packaging is very slim. This packaging is very thick. I don't like that. I like their more slim packaging. I get if palette is big and bulky, like for a reason to suit a theme, but I feel like this is unnecessarily large. And my thoughts on this palette really haven't changed from the first time that I used it. I do like this color story. I think it's very light and bright. I like the inspiration behind the palette. I like that we have these beautiful green shades right here with these beautiful like warm colors, and then we have the neutrals. I do think I can create like several different looks very easily with this palette, but with the color story, you can't do anything very dark. They're all going to be light to mid-tone, which is completely fine. Again, a lot of this comes down to just personal preference. After that, I'm going to talk about the Juvia's Place Culture 2 palette. I had some trouble with some of the shades in this palette. Some of the shades in here are 10 out of 10 gorgeous, like this shade right up here. This is a beautiful shifty duochrome. Some of the shimmers in here are really beautiful. Some of the mattes in here are really beautiful. But just like I said in my video, I did 3 looks with this palette, and there were several shades that just did not perform the way I'm used to Juvia's Place shadows performing. So for that reason, like I felt a little disappointed with it. Again, it's not bad, but I do think some of the shadows they weren't doing what I wanted them to do. They didn't perform the way I expect Juvia's Place shadows to perform. So I like this one, but I don't love it. Next up, I have the Martine Cosmetics Mayday palette. I love the theme. You are going to hear me say like 1,000 times, I love a theme. I love a theme. I know like these ranking videos are so hard for me to do because like I can have my top 10 and the number 1 palette next week I may feel like it's number 3 and the number 3 palette is number 1, and you know, like it changes day to day, but I feel like I repeat myself a lot in these videos, and I love a theme. I love a theme, and I love Martine Cosmetics. I think they make some really cool stuff. Martine Cosmetics is an independently owned brand, and we love that. We love that here. We love independently owned brands. And this palette, it's giving me blue. It's giving me blue, and I love that. The quality of the shadows in here is really nice. Martine Cosmetics has a very consistent formula. Their mattes are very easy to blend. They are pigmented without being overly so. So if you want to go in light and then build, you can definitely do that. The shimmers, they have several different shimmer formulas. Their traditional shimmer formula is very like smooth and flattering on the eyes, and then they will give us some super sparkly shades as well. So this palette I really enjoy, but I feel like it would have been a little bit better if we had just had maybe a little more red, like a little more variety here. I think while none of these shades are the same, a couple of them are similar enough that I think had you pulled those out of the palette and maybe given us like a true blood red shimmer, maybe a deep dark, almost dried blood color, like that would have just made the palette a little more versatile. But I do still really like this palette. And next up, I'm giving Martine Cosmetics these mini palettes the next spot. Now, it is hard for a mini palette, a tiny palette, to compete with some of the larger palettes in my opinion, just because variety, all of that. So let's talk about these because the quality in these is great. It's not that, it's just personal preference. I really like the quality though. This one right here is the silver palette. I really liked that we had this kind of like purpley silver duochrome here. We have the nude palette. Very pretty warm neutral shades with the coppers, and then this kind of cool tone shade right here. And then we have the pink. This one probably being my personal favorite. I really like this red and this pink together. We have a couple of the different Martine Cosmetics shimmer formulas in here. So I feel like out of the three, this is my favorite, but I decided to kind of like group those in and give them the same spot. The number 85 palette is going to the Warlock palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. I love Fantasy Cosmetica. You're going to see their palettes much higher up in the ranking as well. But this one, I just had a little trouble with these two deep dark mattes. I do have a video on this palette. I had a little trouble in the video and I've played with it off camera as well. And I just don't feel like these two mattes right here are as good as the mattes that I know Fantasy Cosmetica can do. Now, these 6 shades up here and this shimmer right here, stunning, beautiful. Fantasy Cosmetica does beautiful shimmers and they do really pretty color stories. This is the only palette that I've really had a struggle with from Fantasy Cosmetica, so that's why it's a little lower, although I can get it to work. It just takes a little more work. Next up, I have ColourPop, the Legend of Korra palette. I really like ColourPop palettes. I think they do a really good job. Sometimes they do a great job. I do think sometimes ColourPop has formulas that are good, some that are great, and some that are like, wow. And this palette for me is good. It's not great. Some of the shadows are, like, I really like this. There's a couple of Super Shocks in here, which I really love. I do think while they don't have this same palette in their line already, there are definitely some similar palettes, and I know that was disappointing to a lot of people. Now, I've never seen the show, so I can't speak to that aspect of it, but I liked this palette a lot. I don't think it's a bad palette at all. Just not my personal favorite. Moving up from there, I put the Mini Trio Chrome from Natasha Denona. It's a mini palette. Again, it's just hard to compete with some of the larger palettes. I do really like the quality of this one though. It's nothing about the quality that makes it rank a little lower. Just, I can only do one thing with this palette. I love the Trio Chrome palette though, so I was super happy to have an expansion. After that, Snow White. Snow White, Dreams Come True, and ColourPop. So this palette, the quality of all of the shadows is really good. Again, they did put some of their Super Shock shadow in here. And I like that we have a black with matte, like matte black with the sparkle. I like that we have this shade right here that's a matte with the sparkle. I think that formula is really beautiful. I like that we have a red and a blue. I like that we have the yellow gold. Of course, I think maybe we could have lost one of these two matte shades up here. I know they're different, but do we need both of them? Like, maybe we could have swapped out one of those, like, because we do have this too. Like, maybe we could have swapped out one of these 3 shades for like a matte blue. I don't know. Just, I see the inspiration, but I think for me to reach for it more, use it more, I use it more as a companion palette now, not quite as much on its own, although of course you can do looks with it on its own, just personal preference, personal preference. After that, I'm going to talk about the Kaleidos quads. I have Venus Trap and Twilight Rush. Beautiful, wonderful, amazing Kaleidos quality. I just, you know, I'm ready for something new from Kaleidos. These for me are more companion palettes, and they are great for that because I do like having these formulas and the duochrome from Kaleidos. This one very light and cool tone. Not something I'm reaching for all the time. Again, the quality is the great Kaleidos quality that I know and expect, but I'm ready for the brand to get back into like their exciting eyeshadow era. Number 80 goes to the Melt Electric palette. This palette is good. I didn't have any issues with my palette whatsoever. I like it. I'm keeping it. I'm happy I bought it. But when I look at this palette compared to other Melt palettes, compared to what else has launched this year, what I know Melt is capable of, this one is not the most exciting for me in my collection and from what I have from Melt. No, I don't think it's the same as their other palettes. I definitely didn't find any like true duplicate shades or anything, but I do see where people are coming from when they say like it doesn't feel super fresh. Again, I like the palette, I'm keeping it, but a lot of good stuff has launched this year, and that means some good things, some really good things have to come in more towards the bottom. After that, I am going to put DeDe's Signature, the Classic Autumn palette. DeDe's Signature is a indie brand. It is woman owned, and I'm super excited. After they took a break for a little while, they came back, and I'm so happy to have them back making makeup. They make some beautiful shimmer shades. These shimmers are gorgeous. We have some different shimmer formulas, I believe. Yeah, like these are all shimmer duochrome shades. We have this shade here that's a little more of that like squishy texture. Then we have some that are more true like metallics. Really beautiful color story. I don't love the mattes. They're not bad mattes. They're just not my personal preference. They do take a little more like layering. If you want to go in with like, say this shade, I have to put it on and then add a little bit more, but I can't layer a lot of shades on top of one another, or I feel like it doesn't work out so well. So I try not to layer too many different colors on top of one another, but they're definitely good, just not my personal favorite mattes, not my personal favorite formula to work with. The shimmers are incredible though, and I'm excited to see what they do in the future. I hope maybe they upgrade the packaging, give us more of an experience, but I really am enjoying their color stories and their shimmers especially. So at 78, I do have the Jingle Bell Ruby palette. So we have that same format, same type of packaging, and then inside we have beautiful shimmers. I love this color story. I think it's so pretty. We do have that same matte formula that I talked about before, but the shimmers are just stunning. Do you see those gorgeous duochromes? I really like how they have a nice equal mix of mattes and shimmers in that palette. I think it's like super user-friendly, easy to use. Next up, we have to talk about these palettes from Ace Beaute. I just put these all in one slot because my complaint with these is the same for all of them. Ace Beaute launched 4 palettes. Begonia, this is probably my personal favorite color story. I really like the mix of burgundies and the green and the purple. This layout, I don't like. I don't like these skinny pans. I don't mind using smaller brushes, but I do feel like I kind of have to dig in the pan a little bit. I have to make sure I really move my brush around just right. And if you're somebody who likes to use big brushes, this could definitely be a problem. So that's why they're not ranking higher up. Beautiful color stories. I love the color story of this one right here, Flora. But like, had they just put this in square pans, it would have been so much better. After that, we do have Fleur. This one is very pretty. It's a little one note, probably my least favorite of the 4. And then Calla. This is really pretty. It reminds me a bit of GlamLite's Chocolate Martini color story wise, but I do prefer the GlamLite again because these pans, they're just not it for me. They are not the fave. After that, we'll talk about Beauty Bay's Metamorphic palette. Now, I've talked about this one pretty recently because it is newer to my collection, so I won't spend too much time going on and on about it. The formula in here, beautiful. Beautiful mattes, beautiful shimmers, duochromes, really, really good formula, but they could have swapped out one of the mattes for a different matte shade. I feel like they're kind of similar. There's maybe one shimmer they could have gotten rid of to give us one more matte, make the palette a little versatile, but overall, I really, really like the palette. After that, I have ColourPop Alice in Wonderland. This is Lost in Wonderland. I like this palette. I think the color story is a little weird, but in a weird way that makes me feel creative. I don't know. I kind of like this mix of pastels. I like that we have, with these really light shades, this deepening up shade down here and a couple of like darker shimmers. We have like an almost duochrome type shade. I thought the formula was really nice in this one. I know it's an odd color story, but it does make me feel like inspired to create because I kind of have to think about it in a good way. Next, we will talk about the Tarte Maneater Nightfall. This is a good palette. The palette that Tarte did last year in the same format, really good too. For a palette, you can go to Sephora, you can go to Ulta, and you can buy in store. Not my personal favorite, but very, very good. If you were to ask me, hey, I want to go to Ulta today, I really want to get a palette, this would be like one of the few that I would recommend because I do think that you get a nice mix of neutrals. You get some beautiful blue, teal, purple shades. You get some deepening up shades over here. Some of the shimmers are more metallic and beautiful than others. Some of them are more smooth and sparkly. The mattes all worked well though. Again, I think indie brands, independently owned brands do it better, of course, but I do think this one was really, really nice and I enjoyed it. After that, I have the Natasha Denona Xenon palette. Let's get one thing clear. The quality of this palette is great. I really like the quality, but this for me is a companion palette because it's very gray. I think a black in here would have even made it a little more interesting, although I know the mini Xenon has a black. For me, I'm going to reach for my mini over this one because I feel like the mini has the shades I need the most. I do enjoy having the silvers, and if you like, if this is your #1 favorite palette, that is amazing. I did say, like, this is a lot based on personal preference. I don't see a blue shade or a pink shade on here. I've looked at this palette for so long. Like, my video, I spent hours editing, filming, looking at it. Now, when I put like a blue light filter over my phone, then I could see a blue and a pink, but in real life, I cannot. It's all very gray. Again, the quality is great, but for me, it's a palette that I'm mixing with other palettes, not really using on its own. After that, we'll talk about the Naruto, I don't know, palette. Never seen the show. This though is a really cute color story. I like, whoops, I'm hitting stuff over here. I like that we have like the columns. The way it's laid out is very pleasing to me. I do feel like it's a little repetitive when I look at ColourPop's overall line, but on its own, I think it's really pretty. After that, I think the Too Faced Italian Spritz palette is great. I really like this. This would be another one if somebody were going in store to Sephora wanting to know like what they could buy. I think the Italian Spritz is a great one. It's a half neutral, half colorful palette. I really hope Too Faced continues to do palettes like this and their fun packaging with their fun scent that gives us the Too Faced, like what they're known for, you know, but with some updated color stories. And I do think even if somebody doesn't love color, they would still like this palette a lot because the color in here is colorful enough for me, but I feel like it's muted enough for a non-color lover to wear it, like the pinks and the purples here. I love that we have this like yellowy orange shade. I like the blues. I think Too Faced did a really good job on this. That may be a Too Faced best palette. After that though, let's talk about GlamLite Scooby-Doo. I like this palette a lot. I really like GlamLite's formula. I think they do a great job, and you are going to see GlamLite as we go up. As we get closer to the favorites, things have to rank somewhere, right? Like we have to play favorites in ranking videos. I really think this is beautiful. I like the colors they chose. I like how each like column goes with the character. Each row we have some different textures. But there is a lot of like wasted space in here. I'm sure to a lot of people it's not wasted space because you do have like room for the characters to be printed. For me, had this been a little more condensed, I would have liked that even more. Again, when we're picking favorites, playing favorites, I have to take everything into consideration, and packaging plays a role in that. But this right here, that's cute. Next, we have the Simply Posh Citrus Punch palette. This is a great palette. This is a beautiful color story. As I talk, like some of them, I'm like, no, like I should swap you and you and you and you and you and you. But I've been working on this ranking for like a week, and I keep moving stuff, and I'm like, no more, Heather. You have to just tell the people your ranking. So my ranking might be different if I were to rank these tomorrow, honestly. This is a great palette. Simply Posh, we'll talk about them more. The palette that is ranked higher up, I think the formula is the best they've ever done. So I do hope that they will bring this palette back in their little bit updated, improved formula. The color story of this one, though, it does something for me. I love summertime. The shades in here are beautiful. I love that we have mattes, duochromes mattes. I think that's so pretty. After that, I have the Glaminatrix Sugar and Spice palette. I have a feeling this is going to be a lot of people's favorite palette of the year because we have a lot of cool tones in here. We have some beautiful multi-chromes with some pastels. For me, it's not my personal favorite color story, which is what I've said since I first tried the palette. The quality in here is great. Really, really good quality. It's just a little more cool leaning when I think of my personal favorites, but really beautiful, really high quality. After that, we have Wicked Widow Tea Time palette. Is it Tea Time? I think it's called Tea Time. I don't think it's printed anywhere on here, but adorable. I really like this 8-pan format that Wicked Widow Beauty is doing. I like that we have a mix of mattes and shimmers and duochromes, really beautiful shades in here. I think this is really creative, and I feel like Wicked Widow is good at creating these smaller palettes that are still cohesive, because sometimes a palette can have a theme, but the colors are random and it can be not the easiest color story to create looks with. But I think Wicked Widow does a good job of really thinking out their color stories and having something fun and versatile and something you can create different looks with that still work together, and I really like that. Next up, I have my Nomad Verona Amore Immorte, the Love and Death palette. Okay, the Romeo and Juliet, kind of Valentine's Day, anti-Valentine's Day. So over here, we have the Valentine's Day side, and over here, we have the anti-Valentine's Day. So all together, we have Romeo and Juliet. We have love and death represented here, and I really like that. I think this was a really cool concept for Nomad. I like the way that it's 2 9-pan palettes put together. So if you don't know what to do, you can just say like, okay, I'm sticking with that half of the palette or the other, or you can kind of mix and match all over. I think Nomad did a good job of giving us dark shades, light shades. I really, really enjoyed that one. After that though, listen, straight up, I will tell you, the theming makes me love. This is the ColourPop Welcome Foolish Mortals palette. This is, I love both of the movies. The new one, the Eddie Murphy one. The ride is not a thrill ride. I love thrill rides, but it is a very nostalgic ride for me, so I enjoy it. So I was like setting an alarm for this. I'll just say now, the formulas of all of these shades are beautiful. I think ColourPop did a great job. Like, this is the great, excellent quality that ColourPop does. We have the matte with sparkle, we have the mattes, we have the super shock shadows, we have the more glittery shadows, we have the more traditional formula of shimmer. So they gave us multiple different formulas, which is important to me. They gave us light shades, they gave us dark shades. I think maybe 1, 2, 3, like one of these, I would have liked to seen swapped out for something maybe just a little different to work with the whole haunted mansion theme. Maybe something to give it that more eerie blue cast that the Rad has. Like, I just don't know that all three of these were necessary. That's why it's not ranking even higher, because the formula and the theming are great. Next up, I have the new 9 pans from Sigma. I really like these. The quality is great. I recently did a video using these, if you want to check that out. My favorite is the Earthy palette. I like these olive undertones. I do have an olive undertone to my skin, so when I'm looking at neutral shades, I gravitate towards those that are a little more like golden olive undertone based or warm leaning, because my skin is olive warm leaning. So Earthy is probably my favorite. I really like the Jewels palette as well. I think they gave us a pretty selection of shades in here. I have the Electric Pink, which I do think this is Sigma's version of Electric Pink, really pretty. And then Beachy. This is one of the faves too, because they gave us an unexpected color story. We have a duochrome in here. We have a matte with gold sparkle and some blue. The quality of these is really, really great. And when I talk about creator collabs, I will say the Angela Bright palette is so good. But the quality of Sigma is just overall very consistent. I like these. They are a more neutral leaning brand. But if you have texture or fine lines or anything on your eyes that you don't want to emphasize, I definitely think you will really like Sigma, because the shimmers are just very smooth. Some of them definitely have more sparkle and texture to them, but overall they're just very flattering on the eyes. After that, I have the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. I really like this palette. I think it is super nice. All of the shades in here are beautiful, and I love that Natasha gave us some new kind of like different toppery-esque formulas in here. We have her beautiful mattes and shimmers and metallics. I love Natasha Denona. I think her quality is outstanding. For me, this is just ranking a little lower due to color story, personal preference. After that though, let's talk about Glaminatrix Into the Night. This is a wacky color story that I think is so fun. I love the neons. Then I love that we have these more grungy tones on the other end. I love that we have some shimmers and some multi-chromes. I think they did a good job with this palette. I'm not sure if this one is still around, and I will be honest, I didn't care about that in my ranking. If it was limited edition, if it wasn't around, I figured I tried it this year. I talked about it this year. It's not about selling a product to you. It's about ranking my palettes. So I really, really enjoyed this one. After that, we've got to talk about the Moolah palette from Martine Cosmetics. Martine Cosmetics gave us the slim packaging. We do not see that often from them. And this is my type of neutral palette. And you may be thinking, it's not neutral. And you're right, I guess. I guess it's half neutral, half colorful. But the all of these shades in here just work so well for me. I really like that we have this pop of like this almost like neon yellow gold shimmer. We have some duochromes in here. The pop of orange I think works really well with all the palettes. Again, so happy they did this more sleek, slim packaging. At the number, I think we're at spot number 60, if I counted correctly, I have the GlamLite Hershey's palette. They did a great job with these. They really did. I just put these in one spot together. Definitely think I prefer this one, which is surprising because this is more cool tones, whereas this is more warm, which I would normally prefer more. But I think this one has some more unexpected shades, especially like with the pops of blue and things like that. This one is the Cookies and Cream palette. The formula in both of these is really, really beautiful. I love that they look like chocolate bars. I think, like always, GlamLite killed it with the theme. Next up, I have the Game Beauty Elemental Collection. So I put these all at the same spot. I do have a video on these and I kind of rank them there if you want to see. But I do kind of prefer this one. This is the Geo Blast palette, which you may be thinking, Heather, a neutral palette? I love neutrals in color, okay? Like, I love it. But I think this palette has, like, variety in the color story. I think you can take it multiple different ways. So I really love, love, love that. After that, the green one. This is Dendro. I love green. It's my favorite color. Can you tell by looking at me? I love green. I just love, love, love it. I think this one has some really pretty variety too, like multi-chrome and duochrome. After that, I've got to give it to the purple one, the Electro. This is the one I'm pretty sure keeps selling out, and they have to restock because it's just, sorry, I had a hair, like I could feel it falling. It was on my nerves. This one just is so pretty. It has a multi-chrome in there. It has some really nice formulas, very good sparkle. I really love these from Game Beauty. Then we have the Pyro palette that is this pinky, red, orangey, fiery color story. Last but not least is the blue palette. This is Cryo. These are really great from Game Beauty. Let's talk about the Fighter palette. This is a beautiful cool tone palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. So if you are looking for some cool tones, but you want something not like typical, not something that maybe you would find from a mainstream brand, but you really want just cool tones, but a cool color story. This one from Fantasy Cosmetica, beautiful. It's an indie brand, it's a woman-owned brand. You have 4 matte shades that are gorgeous. I really like that we have the 2 grays, and we have a cool toned matte brown, and then we have this yellow that's very desaturated, just overall really beautiful. I like how we have all these neutral shimmers with this kind of like desaturated red and this kind of like blue to silver shade. I don't know, the variety in here is really good. I think they did a great job with this palette, but we're not done talking about Fantasy Cosmetica, but next we have to talk about the ABH Cosmos palette. I like this. I have to say, I'm just so happy to see ABH producing some really good eyeshadow palettes again. We saw this start with them last year. They continued it into this year. This year though, they're giving us some duochromes, some interesting textures. This is like neutral leaning mattes with some beautiful shimmers and some colorful shimmer options, which I can get behind. I love the packaging too. It's a very me. But after that, we have to talk about Neon Nitro Speed from Martine Cosmetics. Okay. Is this not happiness? Is this not happiness? I love this like fast car kind of like theming around like the Fast and the Furious, you know, like not a collab, but definitely inspired. Beautiful. This is a rainbow palette. I do wish, of course, that it was in that thinner style packaging that we saw with the Moolah palette, but it is beautiful. And we have some like almost cream to powder type formulas in here. Some of the Martine Cosmetics mattes that I love. Some beautiful, very smooth, creamy shimmers, metallics, and some beautiful like sparkly, almost duochrome-esque type of shadows. What makes this palette so good for me is the black and the white with all these colorful shades. I think that makes it super versatile. And then I love that we have these more pastel-y shades mixed in with the bright pops. I think they did such a good job. We're going to talk about Simply Posh again, and that is the Berry Icy palette. There's something special about this color story. Like they really did something fun with this. I know it's very blue. I love that we have this whole like blue 9-pan over here. And then we have these kind of purple neutral berry tones. I like the theming. A lot of times, like if we say like a berry colored eyeshadow, we automatically, or at least I do, think of like a purpley red burgundy type of shade. But I love that they did like lots of different berries for their theming. I think that was fun. Next up, Lunar Beauty Siren Sunset. This is a great palette from Lunar Beauty. We have the siren, we have the moon, we have the outstanding, wonderful Lunar Beauty like packaging that I expect, and this beautiful color story inside. These shimmers that Lunar Beauty is doing are really special. I love that we have multi-chrome and duochrome in here, and I like that we have a neutrals. I do wish maybe we had like a baby blue or a lavender matte in here. I think that would have added something a little fun to the palette, but I have to say the quality of this one is great, and I think it's very smart to do beautiful bold colors with some neutrals, so you can do both. If you want to do neutrals, you can use this palette. If you want to do color, you can use this palette. BellaBeauteBar. This is the first time we're seeing the brand. You're going to see them a lot going forward. This is the Bejeweled palette. So we have this like iridescent, like rainbow type packaging, and inside it is jewel tones. There are no light shades. So if you are someone who thinks that the light shades in palette should not be there, that they are unnecessary, you never reach for those, this is the palette for you, because it is all mid-tone to very deep. There is nothing light in here. So I did make a video with this palette, but since then I have paired it with my pastel palettes, kind of mixed and matched. Beautiful formula. Every single shade in here performs beautifully. There's no shade that I can say like it's not good. All the shades are great. Every formula. I love that we have a good mix of mattes and shimmers in here. I just think overall it's gorgeous. We love the Sickly Sweet from Blend Bunny. And listen, I know we're still like low or seemingly low in the rankings, but I love these palettes. They're still in my collection. I will probably get rid of some of the like first 10 that I talked about, but all of these other ones are great. I love the Blend Bunny formula. This is the first time we're talking about Blend Bunny today, so that tells you we're loving Blend Bunny. This is not just a pastel palette, but mostly pastels. It makes me think of like candy necklaces. You know, you have all these light, kind of like very desaturated colors, beautiful pastels, but I love that Blend Bunny put several deep shades in here and several shimmer shades so that you can get a not just pastel look if that's what you want. It is that beautiful Blend Bunny quality and formula that we know and love. Next up, I have the ABH Fall Romance palette. I think this color story is so pretty, and I know looking at it in the pan, these two shades right here seem very similar, but swatched out, one of them is definitely a more olive green and one of them is definitely a more cool gray with an olive undertone. I think it's so beautiful. I think they did a great job with this. Again, we do have a pretty like duochrome in there. We have matte with sparkle. We have some beautiful shimmers, some beautiful metallic. ABH, they're coming back and I'm happy to see it. I really like this color story. I really like this format. I think the formulas in here are so beautiful. I'm very, very happy with it. But let's talk about this one because the packaging, like this could be some of my favorite packaging of the year. This is the What's Up Beauty Dragon Eye palette. I'm letting palettes fall in front of me. Look at this. It's so beautiful. If you didn't know, hi, I'm the mother of dragons. So I'm obsessed with this packaging. The inside of this is really beautiful. Now, What's Up Beauty loves a more neutral, toned down matte. I am happy we got at least like one purple matte shade in here. The multi-chromes and duochromes in here are very beautiful and they all have this kind of like green shift to them. So I think that fits really well with the packaging. I do hope in the future they will branch out a little bit into some more colorful mattes. I know that they love their more neutral, muted mattes, but I would love, like, if we had an emerald green matte in here, maybe just swapped out like one of these for that, it would have taken the palette to a new level. But I think this is very, very beautiful, and if you just want to do like a matte in the crease, one multi-chrome on the lid, good to go. This will be beautiful for you. I really do enjoy it. I have to talk next about Wicked Widow Beauty again with an 8-pan palette. This is the Graveyard Smash, and the color story is so creative while still working together. Every single one of these mattes work well with each other. We have two shimmers and two duochromes again. They work well with every single matte in here. So again, we have an interesting color story. We have beautiful formulas, and somehow they all work together. I think Wicked Widow Beauty does a really good job with color stories, and I like that one so much. The Arttitude Cosmetics Man-Eater palette. This palette is the one that made me say, oh, okay, this is Arttitude, because I've tried some things from them before, but I think this is like, this came in and was like, we can do a pretty fun color story, and I think the formula improved starting this year. They've done a great job, and this color story, it gets me, okay? We have the bright, colorful shades. We have some more muted, grungy tones. We have enough shades in here to where you could do a neutral leaning look. Maybe not just like beige, but neutrals are more than just beige, okay? We have a brown. We have this beautiful olive shade. We have some goldy bronze tones. Really, really beautiful. I think they did a great job with this palette. We're going to talk about the brand higher up the list as well, but this was the palette from them that I was like, oh, okay, this is the brand to watch. Next up, I have my Nomad Okavango Safari palette. I do apologize if I pronounce the name of the place incorrectly. I love this color story. This color story was pretty on trend and popular this year. Kind of the neutrals with the green olivey tones, and I think Nomad did a great job with this one. I love that we have that top row of just kind of like brown shades, more warm leaning, and then we have a middle row of these beautiful green tones, and then at the bottom we do have some deep tones, both in brown and green. I think this is really beautiful. The packaging is also really beautiful, and when I see this, it puts a smile on my face, which counts for something for sure. I think that's really, really beautiful. After that, I put the Machina or Machina or whatever, it doesn't matter, you see it. It is this palette from Blend Bunny, very like on trend for what's being talked about now with AI and all of that. This palette, super duper pretty formulas, works really well together. The color story seems very disjointed and kind of like what's going on until I start creating a look, and then I just feel like I have everything I need to like do what I want to do. I love this row of like grungy greens, almost like Melt Gemini-esque with these. We have these beautiful blues. This shade right here, so beautiful. It's like this blue purple wet looking shade on the lids. It's absolutely gorgeous. The other shimmers in here are beautiful as well. I love that Blend Bunny gives us a gradient, so it makes it very easy to buff and blend and do whatever you want. Really great formulas in there. After that, we're going to talk about BellaBeauteBar, the Sun and the Sea. This is really, really pretty. I love the mermaid theming packaging. I would say maybe like siren-esque type of vibes, like evil mermaid type of theming. I like that we have some very light shades, some very deep shades. I definitely have some BellaBeauteBar that's coming a little bit higher, that I think the color story gives us a little more variety. But I love this palette. I think the formulas are beautiful. I think we have some beautiful shimmers and multi-chromes. You can do a neutral look. You can do a colorful look. You can do both, whatever you want to do. Abscission from Arttitude. This is great. This is a great palette. They did such a good job on this one. This, I mean, it's perfect for a fall release. Now, I love taking inspiration from the season, but the weather outside does not tell me what kind of makeup to wear. I will wear whatever I want to wear. I don't care if it's winter, spring, summer, or fall, but I do think it's fun to kind of pull out those fall color stories in the fall, and this palette is definitely that. We have like the changing of the leaves, the changing of the sky, like Just very fall, and I love that. I love that we have some neutral shades in here. I love that we have the orangey red tones, the blue tones. Every single shade in here performs well. We've got multi-chrome, shimmers, really beautiful, beautiful palette. Next up, I have the Nomad Ghost Town USA palette. I love this packaging. I love the theming of a ghost town. I think that's so cool. Yeah, Ghost Town USA. I really like that. This is very pretty. It feels like Haunted Europe's kind of like cooler toned older sister. Really beautiful. I loved Haunted Europe, but it was a little warmer, I think, than this one. This one's so beautiful, though. I love that we have neutrals and blues and greens. You want to do a neutral look, you can do it. You want to do a colorful look, you can do it. Nomad, they're doing the thing out here. This is really, really good. Next up, we have our first appearance of Unearthly Cosmetics. This was in their small summer mystery box. I don't know that these are available anymore. Again, I will try to put links and a list of everything I talk about down below in the description box. So I'm not sure if this is still available, but this is really pretty. This is one of their smaller 8-pan palettes. I think the color story works super well together. I love that we have a nice mix of mattes and shimmers. I really like the deep dark mattes Unearthly chose. I think they work super well together. Really, really beautiful. After that, though, we're going to talk about the Cosmic Brushes Gothic palette. I like this for Cosmic Brushes. I like that they gave us a palette that's a little smaller. And they did a good color story. We have some warm pinky purples, and then we have some more cool purples with even like a taupey purple in here. We have a nice mix of like mattes with sparkle, shimmer, more iridescent topper-like shadows. We have a like multi-chrome in here. Really beautiful. I like that this palette goes from light to dark. I feel like I can get variety with this palette, which is definitely important, but I liked seeing the smaller format from them, and this is the first time Cosmic Brushes is appearing in the ranking, so you know more is to come. If I counted correctly, we're in the top 40. Hey, that makes me happy. Next up, I have Fall Magic from Unearthly Cosmetics. Obviously, I love this type of color story. It's very beautiful. I love that we have an equal number of mattes to non-matte formula. We have some multi-chrome, some duochrome, some shimmer in here. Really, really pretty. They did a great job with that one. After that, we are going to talk about Sigma Beauty and the Beast. Hear me when I say they did something great with this formula. The mattes are so easy to blend, and I already told y'all, like, Sigma is very consistent. They're always easy to work with, always very flattering and beautiful on the eyes, but I feel like these mattes even more so. I really like that we have this mix of neutrals. When I'm looking at Sigma's Disney Princess palettes, I think a more neutral leaning palette does fit in well, but I like that even with that, they did give us a deep dark navy for the Beast. They gave us some more like pinky tones over here, and I love that we have this like light bright white shimmery shade. I think this is absolutely beautiful. How stunning is the packaging too? Like, it's not that playful Disney kids, it's more like luxury Disney. I feel like this is Disney for me. For me, who is now an adult and who enjoys like the memories of the Disney princesses, it gets harder and harder as we go, honestly. This is the Chucky palette. This is Crazy in Love from GlamLite. They like rocked my world when this launched in February for Valentine's Day. This is the perfect anti-Valentine's Day, like, it's just so, I love it. You know, like, I don't know. I think this was just a fun mix of like horror and Valentine's Day. Non-traditional type of color story, and I was here for it. The quality in here of every shade is spectacular, okay? Spectacular. They gave us light shades and deep shades. They gave us cool tones. while still bringing in some purples and some reds. So I feel like I have variety in this palette, and that is important to me. That is important to me. I love that palette. After that, it gets so hard. It's the Glaminatrix Rich Romantic palette, okay? This is beautiful. Definitely a romantic type of color story. We do have some really beautiful shades. We have the beautiful matte and shimmer and multi-chrome formula from GlamLite that we all know and love. I think they did a really beautiful job on that one. This next palette from Laura Lee, Los Angeles, and Lunar Beauty. This is such a good neutral palette. Like, this is probably going to be in one of my top favorite if I have to think about neutral palettes as a whole, because they played with texture and they played with tones, and I really enjoy it. I love these olivey tones we have. I love the more purpley, like mauve types of tones. I love the warm and neutral brown shades. I love that we have a duochrome. They did a great job. It is very, very easy to create a look with this. It is easy to create a light look. It's easy to create a dramatic look. I really like this, and I definitely see like the merger of the two brands in this palette. I like that we have this like bright, more golden shade, these more bronzy shades. They really knocked it out of the park with that one, honestly. And I think we are at number 35. That would be Twisted Tea Party from Ensley Rain. This is the first time we're talking about Ensley Rain, but it will not be the last. Ensley Rain, the packaging on this is so cool, but I love that we have like a second packaging on the inside. So you can do the Mad Hatter or you can do the Cheshire Cat inside. This really fun, really, really beautiful color story. I think everything in here works beautifully together. This is a magnetic palette. I know people love magnetic palettes. I know people love magnetic palettes. My collab with Unearthly, my collab with Adept is all magnetic, so you can mix and match your pans. But I do know that magnetic pans do mean like a little more expensive. So keep that in mind. But I like that you can kind of rearrange this if you want, because I know sometimes people with a creative thought process, it helps them to kind of move things around. So I do enjoy that you can do that if that's something you like to do. Going from there, let's talk about cosmic brushes. Again, this is the Delicious Delights palette. So this is the more pastel leaning palette from Cosmic Brushes. I think this is really fun paired with the Gothic palette that we talked about earlier from the brand. We have those very bright shades, but I like that they also gave us the deep dark purple, so we do have some variety. We have the beautiful mix of mattes and shimmers. We have multi-chrome, we have topper shades, we have duochromes. Super beautiful. The next palette, I think, if I'm looking and remembering right, and thinking about my overall collection, I think this is my favorite pastel palette. Definitely in the top 3. This is the BellaBeauteBar Pastel Garden. This is straight up pastel. This is all pastel. This is probably all the pastel you could ever need. It's massive. I don't mind. I like that brands have a variety of different like sizes and shapes in their line. I don't need a brand to do all the same type of thing. So BellaBeauteBar gave us 3 large palettes this year when I think about the collabs. They gave us some smaller palettes. So I like the variety. This is gorgeous. Every single shade in here, beautiful. I love that we have so many mattes and so many shimmers. I do think this is gorgeous. I have used every single shade on the eyes and they all perform beautifully. After that, I have the Get Groovy palette from Unearthly. This was in their large mystery box, and this is their rainbow palette. I think it's super pretty. Again, like, we're in the top now, okay? We're in the top. So it's gonna be me complimenting all these palettes. It's gonna be me ranking them in a spot, because that is what the video is about, moving up the list based on personal preference. The quality, beautiful. This is a beautiful, beautiful palette. Next though, this is like the best of Fantasy Cosmetica. This is the Rogue palette. This is great. Like, there are 5 matte shades and 4 shimmer or multi-chrome shades. The matte shades in here are beautiful. These deep dark mattes are so easy to work with, incredibly beautiful. These kind of like murky, grungy, even these 2 pastels are got this like murkiness about them that I really like. Like almost like if you took a pastel blue and like dipped it in the swamp, this is what came out. Same with the lavender. I love that. The shimmers in here are beautiful. I really think Fantasy Cosmetica did something special with this palette. I believe we are in the top 30. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope not. Oden's Eye. It's the first time we're talking about Oden's Eye. I ranked the holiday Christmas palettes in the same spot. They're so good. They're so good. What can I say? We have Snow Dream. That holographic shadow is so holographic and beautiful. I can't even play with y'all. Like, it is so gorgeous. This color story is so, like, vintage Christmas to me. When I think about old Christmas movies, I'm talking about older, not the ones we have now with, like, the graphics are just, like, out of this world. I'm talking about those older classic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I feel like the colors were pulled directly from those movies, and it gives me like the nostalgia. And then we have like that unexpected holographic shade. We have that unexpected purple. Like, they did so good with these. They did so good with these. And then Hey Reindeer, kind of the same thing. When I look at this, I thought of those older Christmas movies, like The Abominable Snowman and like just Frosty the Snowman, like the old like claymation ones. That they just feel, the color stories feel very true to like a vintagey older Christmas to me. And I love the more wintry color story of this. I love the mauve tones. I think even if you don't love or feel super comfortable wearing bright colors, I think you would like these because there are colors in here that are a little desaturated that make them very easy to work with while also still having some like punchy pops. Like, tell me this brown and this red don't look like they were pulled from the Rudolph movie. I don't know. There's something very like nostalgic about those to me that kind of put me in that Christmassy spirit, and it makes me happy. Jumping over though, like the complete opposite way of that are the Nightmare on Elm Street palettes. No, I've never seen the movie, so I can't speak to that, but I know this is the one with the knife hands. Okay, so I put these in the same spot. This is a monochromatic green and red palette. My grungy heart loves these. Loves these, loves these. So beautiful. I love a good red shadow, and this is a great red shadow. These are in that same format that the Scooby-Doo palettes were in from last year, and that is like my favorite from GlamLite. So these make me super happy. I love that in the red we get some black and silver too. I think that's really beautiful. Of course, I love these like swampy greens though. The quality is amazing in those from GlamLite. Jumping over to Sugar and Grunge. I feel like I'm talking about palettes that all have distinct different color stories, like back to back and different packagings and themings. Sugar and Grunge is beautiful. This is the Blend Bunny palette. This has beautiful light pastel shades, beautiful midtones, beautiful deep shades. They may all look similar in the pan, but they are not. And then we have beautiful shimmers. This definitely reminds me of being like a 90s kid. There's something about the color story that makes me think of like a childhood bedspread or something. Really pretty. All of the shades work super well together. I think it's a very like user-friendly palette, and I love that. I told y'all we were not done talking about Simply Posh, and in my opinion, this is like their best work formula-wise. The formula is so good. I really like that, again, we have that same format of mattes, duochromes, mattes. I love that we have light shades and deep shades. I created a look recently using like these browns and these like denim blues. So pretty. I really liked Simply Posh before. I loved their palettes, but this palette, I was like, oh, they said we're taking it to the next level. They said nothing wrong with this level, but the next level is the level. And they took it there. And I appreciate that because I think they did such a good job. Unearthly did a Valentine's Day mystery box. I know we're talking about several different mystery boxes, but this is the Surrender palette. I love this color story. I wish that this palette were still available because it's so good. And it's this half neutral, half colorful palette for Valentine's Day. I love that they did this like sultry, let's say sultry take on Valentine's Day. I like that if you want to look like a brown smoky eye glam for Valentine's Day, you can do that. Or you can pull in these red, pinky berry tones and you can go a little more, you know? We have beautiful formula from Unearthly, this beautiful format. I really, really love this palette. I would love to see it make a comeback. Winter Wonderland from Cosmic Brushes. This is so beautiful. I love good blue, purpley shades, and that's what we have here. I have to say, this shade right here, this matte Showers, stunning, flawless, beautiful. I love that we have a black. I love that we have two multi-chromes. This multi-chrome right here is absolutely gorgeous. I love that we have a very sparkly white shade on here. We have light mattes, we have deep mattes. Beautiful. And Cosmic Brushes is at such a great price point and makes me so happy. Absolutely love. That is an indie brand based out of the UK. Fabulous. After that, let's talk about Nomad Royal Europe. I love this packaging. If you can't tell, it's like layered paper. Very cool. So this is Royal Europe. And this is so incredibly gorgeous. I do love to pull in pastels with this palette. Even still, even though I use it alongside other palettes most of the time, it's ranked this high because I think the multi-chromes are beautiful. And I love these deep dark mattes. I think the formulas are so nice. And I love that we have enough shades to do a neutral look, a blue look, a berry look. Really beautiful. Nomad, you did something special with this one. And I love that they change up their packaging to fit the theme. They don't make themselves stay in one component of packaging. They switch it up and we love to see it. I have to talk though about Melt because this is what I love to see from Melt. This to me is creative and fun and inspiring, and I have been waiting for Melt to do something like this, and it just made me so happy. So this is a collab with Disney, Tim Burton, Nightmare Before Christmas. We have the Halloween Town palette launched first. And when they launched Halloween Town, I just felt like that was very specific. I knew Halloween Town, obviously I've seen the movie, but I was like, that's very specific for the palette. I had a feeling we would see Christmas Town too, and we did. Halloween Town, very, very beautiful. I love this color story. To me, this is wacky, kooky, fun. The shimmers are beautiful. The mattes are beautiful. I love everything about it. And then with Christmas Town, again, stunning, stunning. This is the fun. This is the quality that I want from Melt. I see Halloween Town in this color story. I see Christmas Town in this color story. I see it in the packaging. I see Melt in the packaging. I see Melt in the color story. It makes me so happy. And I hope that Melt continues with the creativity that they put in those palettes because so daggone good, y'all. Next up though, we're going to talk about GlamLite Camp Crystal Lake from Friday the 13th. This is the one where the villain gives his full government name out, which is not smart, okay? Listen, don't tell the government or your victims, everybody, your full government name. Like, come on, Jason, what's his name? Voorhees or something, Voorhees. This is so grungy. I get the horror movie vibes with this one. I get the camp, like, murder camp, I don't know, whatever it is. I get the vibes. They nailed it. Like this from GlamLite. Whoever came up with this color story, give them a raise. Give them a raise. The reds in here with the mauves that are somehow like dirty mauves. The greens, the blues, the black, the kind of like silver. It just, the undertones on these shades are special. I could not just like go into my collection and be like, oh yeah, I have a palette that's similar to that. It stands alone. And I love it. I need to quit though, because we have a lot to talk about and I'm still gushing, but I love that palette. Ensley Rain Harvest Moon palette. Love this packaging. Love this palette. This is beautiful. It was really hard to rank these palettes, y'all. It was not easy. I know you're like, Heather, you're just gushing over these palettes. This is another one that if you find yourself not using the lighter mattes, like for me, I don't always want a vanilla matte shade. And there was a time in makeup where every single eyeshadow palette had this like creamy vanilla matte. And I'm like, I don't need so many of these. Maybe that's you with some of these lighter mid-tone mattes. Maybe you just want the deep shades. This is perfect for you. I use this palette on its own and I use it with other shades, lighter shades to kind of blend. When I tell you this shade, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. Leave me alone. I love it. I love the greens. I love the oranges. I love the purples. I love the shades of the mattes they used. I love that we have different formulas. We have like multi-chromes, duochromes, shimmers, holochromes. Again, we have the magnetic palette so you can mix and match and move it around, and Ensley Rain did so good. I'm getting out of breath talking about it. You know what? We're about to get in the top 20. I think I'm going to have a little snack break. We still have a lot to talk about, a lot of good stuff to talk about. Okay, y'all, I believe we're in the top 20, and I have to give it to BellaBeauteBar, recently de-influenced. I love this one. I think the color story of this one, so pretty. This shade right here, absolutely gorgeous. There is one look in particular that I did with this palette with the orange and the green that I love, and I've loved every look I've created with this palette. But the mix of shades is so good, and I definitely think you can break this palette down into like this 9-pan or this 9-pan if you feel like you don't know what to do with this one. But I love mixing around and jumping from shade to shade. I love, this is like a white to peach to like this fiery multi-chrome, whereas this is like a blue purple white. We have a variety of different textures and formulas in here. So good from BellaBeauteBar. We are going to have the first appearance now of Adept Cosmetics. This is the La Cienega palette. I love Adept. I collaborated with Adept on my Heather Austin palette. A favorite, of course, always and forever. But this is Adept's version of a neutral palette, and it's beautiful. I love that we have the great Adept formula in their mattes that I love. We have 10 mattes and 5 multi-chromes. So beautiful. I have used this palette so much. I'm so happy to have a black matte from Adept. This one is really stunning. After that, we're going to go to Unearthly Sorceress Smoke. The tones of these neutrals are really beautiful. I really like that we have an equal mix of mattes and shimmers. We do have a multi-chrome, duochromes, shimmers. I like that we have that kind of orangey shade next to those more like green olive leaning shades. Really, really beautiful neutral leaning palette from Unearthly. They killed it. This next palette, I think, may be the newest palette to my collection in the ranking. Maybe not. I think this is the GlamLite Garfield palette. I knew I wanted this, but I did not expect to love it like I did. When I saw it in person, I was like, Oh, that looks beautiful. Way, 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 way saturated, blendable, easy to use. The metallics are sparkly. It is more matte shades than shimmers, and I think the mattes they chose are so beautiful. These may look similar in pan, but they are not similar. Like, one is definitely more red, one is definitely more of a purple undertone. I love the inclusion of the gray. I think that makes this palette super versatile too. Everything about that I just love, okay? I love. After that, we're gonna talk again about Cosmic brushes. This is their Muse palette, Muse. I really like this palette. This is definitely like spring, but make it grunge, you know, like a spring night, because I definitely have those like florally flower tones. I have the greens, but it's all very like flowers in the dark, you know, and I'm here for it. We have a shimmer, we have multi-chromes, we have mattes, everything that Cosmic Brushes does that I love, they put in this palette. I think it's so gorgeous. The formulas, everything about this palette is just great. Top 15, y'all. We are making our way through, and I'm so happy about it. I'm just removing my little post-it notes, and I hope I counted correctly because we have the Lunar palette from Blend Bunny. This is so beautiful. I have a hair on my face. Excuse me, sorry. I love a theme, and they went there with this theme. These colors are so pretty, and they give off such that like ocean vibe. I love the name Lure. I think that's such a fun play on the theme. I love that we have these like pinks leaning to this burgundy. I think it pairs so well with the purples and the blues. I love that we have these greens and then the blue greens. I love that we have some neutrals. This multi-chrome right here called Pearl, it's so gorgeous. I don't even know what else to say about it. I love that Blend Bunny palette so much. I love that it's a little smaller, a little more curated, while still being true to the brand. I think they just nailed it. After that, though, we are moving in to the Smoky Glam palette from BellaBeauteBar. Another big palette, yes, but this is beautiful. And I know what you're thinking, but I do not find this to be repetitive. I really like that we have these peachy pastel-y shades, and then I like how we get into these more purple tones, the pinks up here. I love that we have the grays. I love that we have some like olive leaning grays. I love that we have light shades. I love that we have deep shades. We have lots of different formulas and textures in here. Matte with sparkle, shimmer, flaky shimmer, super sparkly shimmer, like duochromes, very intense shades. Like every single time I play with this palette, I'm reminded how much I love it and how every single shade works beautifully together. Like there's no dud in this palette. There's no dud. They're just all great. After that, I have GlamLite Ghostface, and I have to admit, the Ghostface definitely plays a part. It plays a part. The theme, I told you, I take into consideration everything in the ranking. Personal preference, quality, textures, formulas, color stories, packaging, theming, price point. It all plays into it. Ghostface is a comfort movie like Scream, the original, for me and my son, so it kind of holds a special place in my heart. But when they said they were doing Ghostface, I was kind of like, so black and white? Like, what are you gonna do? And they nailed it. Like, I know it is very cool tone and very gray, but GlamLite nailed it with the undertones. We have like a blue gray, an actual blue gray. We have more olive leaning grays. We have more purple leaning grays. We have a black with a sparkle. We have a very light gray. We have a silver. This is like a green silver. They really chose to play with texture and undertone, and it really elevates the palette. I can tell that thought went into this. Somebody who uses makeup, plays with makeup, knows makeup, worked on this palette because of how the shades work together and how it's not redundant even with a black and white inspiration. Y'all knew this was going to be in the top, right? This is the Resurrection palette from Wicked Widow Beauty. I just fell in love with this palette. Honestly, I know you may be like, okay, it's a rainbow palette, but hear me out. It is a rainbow palette with lots of multi-chromes and a twist because, yes, we have the rainbow Roy G. Biv. It's all there, but we have the black and gray, so we can deepen things up if we want to. We have not true white. We have this pinky iridescent white shade with a cream colored matte. And then we have lavender added into the mix with the multi-chrome. Instead of a true like grass green, Kelly green, Crayola green, we have a grungy olive and this deep kind of forest color that's very like intensely grunge. We have like a deeper red other than a true like a vibrant red. We have this, I don't know, like they took the rainbow and they made it their own. And I said before with Wicked Widow Beauty, I think that they're really doing a good job of putting their own spin on things, of playing with color stories. And I think they really nailed it with their rainbow palette. Like this is a favorite. This is so good. I can't get over it. The next palette, this is Natasha Denona's amazing formulas in a color story that I feel like she made for me. I think Natasha Denona was in there creating color stories, like thinking, what can I do that is neutral and color and innovative and not like the others? And this came out. I don't know why it's so perfect. I recently went on a little weekend getaway to Hot Springs and I decided to take this palette with me because it's easy for me. Yes, I can create bold, dramatic looks, but I can also 2 minutes whip up something that I feel great in. These orangey gold shades are such a good addition. These olivey shades are beautiful. The pop of this like neon pastel up here is so perfect. This cream to powder shade, this duochrome up here, everything is so perfect. Like looking at this palette, there is not a single thing I would change about it. And that's rare. That's rare for me to say. All of the ones, like all 5 that I just talked about could be in the top 10. Ask me tomorrow. But now we're at number 10. Now we are in the top 10. And some of y'all may be like, oh, we know what's coming because you know what I haven't talked about yet. The GlamLite Rick and Morty palette is maybe like the most surprising release of the year because this is like a neon rainbow. I was going to say a colorful rainbow, but the rainbow is colorful. But it's like if the rainbow were going to a rave, okay? Like techno music rainbow, like something like that, you know? Like it's bright, it's fun, it's colorful. And then you get to the bottom row and they're like, but we're still here for the makeup. That is so important when you have a theme, when you have a vision, to still think about creating a look. And GlamLite, they didn't forget that this still needed to be a palette that people reached for and loved because we have these deep tones, we have the light tones, while we have that like techno rainbow vibe going on. It's so good. Don't play with me. Don't fight with me about it. Argue with your mama because I love it. And it stays out of stock because it's amazing. Everybody's loving it. Like, everybody is loving it. Let's talk about Don't Be Jelly from Unearthly. It's so pretty. Why is it so pretty? Why is it so pretty? Do you see this? Do you see it? We have beautiful multi-chromes and we have this color story that definitely does make me think of jellyfish. Like the packaging and the color story inside mesh. Every shade is beautiful. These shades right here, stunning, stunning. These are some of the prettiest multi-chromes ever. Luminescence and Hydraspace. So gorgeous. And then we have dark shades, we have bright shades. This blue is really, really beautiful. I think Unearthly, like there's nothing they could change about this palette. It is perfect. It is beautiful. I think it just works so well together. I am obsession with it. BellaBeauteBar Basic Witch. I love this palette. I love this palette. This color story is so inspiring and unique and fun. This was like a Halloween launch and they did like this whimsical fun take on it. I love that we have this green down here. I love this yellowy orange shade. The pinks and purples work so well together. This is like a brown black with a cool undertone that makes so much sense for the palette. This is such a beautiful shade to include, this kind of like gray purpley color. We have a hollow chrome in here. We have multi-chrome. We have sparkle. We have everything. They killed it with this. This is absolutely the BellaBeauteBar favorite. They came, they saw, they conquered. So beautiful. Like I kind of want to use it now. Ensley Rain. As soon as I saw this, I knew if the quality was good, I was going to love it. Because this packaging makes me sad that I don't live there, first of all. But this color story is so fun to me. If I had to pick a season, I'm thinking of summer. But of course, I can wear it whenever. But this color story is just whimsy and fun makeup. We have holographic shades in here. This shade right here, this is the type of eyeshadow shade that a lot of brands will charge $25 just for this shade. Like it's so good. I know that these blues maybe look a little repetitive in the pan. Watch my video because swatched out, they're so good. Y'all, if there's anything you're curious about, please go watch my videos because I have videos on all of this. I think I have like 5 looks with this collection. Something ridiculous. Like I had the time, okay? That was a different time in my life. I had time. Look at this though. Is this not gorgeous? I love this matte up here. I love all the shimmers. These two, like, there's something incredibly special about this color story. And for me, this was a year of Ensley Rain. Like, I tried them for the first time this year. And wow. 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 They also did a collaboration with Shifty Shadow. We can talk about that in my collaboration video later. Adept Cosmetics Element 115. I love the theme. I love the theme. You've heard me say it once, twice, 1,000 times. I love a good theme. And then we have blue, teal, purple colors. These are so gorgeous. If you are confused about rainbow shades like this, please watch my video because I show these. And I have other palettes from Adept that have that type of formula where I show you. So don't be scared. They're beautiful. We have multi-chromes, we have shifty shades, we have sparkle, and we have the mattes from Adept that I love. Again, magnetic, move your pans around. I love that in this purple, blue, teal type of color story, they gave us like some warmth with the orange. I think that elevates the palette, makes it special, unique, makes the types of looks I can do different. And Adept, like they don't miss. They don't miss. The next palette, we're in the top 5, is also from Adept. It is the Sumerian Sunset. First of all, I love the ombre packaging. I think that's really beautiful. And this is a warm, fiery color story. I know it's inspired by the Sumerian Sunset in Star Trek, right? But it gives me like outdoor type of feeling, which I love. I love. It looks so fiery while also having these green shades. This shade, there's something about like a yellow that is so desaturated like this that works so beautifully for me, and I just love this fiery tone. Like, I love this shade right here though. Like, Adept could put my name on this shade because it's so good. It's so good. It's so shift heavy. This shade right here, like, this. I don't know who told Adept it was okay to make such a beautiful palette, because I love everything about it. Y'all, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so hard to rank this many amazing palettes. I love this though. Like, it's so good. It's so beautiful. Every shade performs amazing. Number 4. I had to give it to the Gerard's Divine collection from Oden's Eye. I'm pretty sure that's the name. Gerard's Divine. So we have the Jewels and Gem palette. This is so pretty for Oden's Eye, and I think if I had a friend who only wore brown type of eyeshadows and they wanted something a little outside of their comfort zone but not too far outside of their comfort zone, this is what I would recommend, because we have these beautiful light mauve tones, and then we have some kind of beautiful shimmers. We have this to get a little deep, and these dark shades to use as liner. You could do that as well. Of course, for me, I'm going bold on a Tuesday. I don't care. But we have a multi-chrome in here. We have Oden's Eye's beautiful formulas. And the Stone and Rock as well. This one probably my personal favorite because it's green. But the textures in here are so good. And that is something that I love about Oden's Eye. They play with the different textures, different formulas. The mattes are their beautiful matte formula that layer and build and blend and have pigment. Then we have a multi-chrome. We have some of those flaky shimmers. We have some of the more iridescent shimmers. We have some that are very smooth, some that are very sparkly. Everything about these two palettes, like, I would change nothing about them. I like the packaging. I think is super sweet and pretty. I love the inspiration. I love the color stories. Aside from Oden's Eye's collaboration palettes, I think those two may be my favorites. Number 3 goes to Unearthly Devour. This was part of their Halloween collection, and I'm so happy that they brought this palette back, because this color story is so beautiful, and I see this palette so beautifully with my collaboration with them, and maybe that's why I love it so much, because it's almost like, in my mind, I can see almost kind of as like an extension of it. In a way, I have a look here on YouTube combining it, but like with my lime greens in my palette, I see this as like an extension that it can go with that. And then my true red and my hot pink with this like dark deepness in here, I think goes so well. Like, it just, I don't know, like, I love it. Unearthly killed it with this color story. I love that we have like these deep dark tones, these bright tones. This multi-chrome right here called Trap, so good. Like, smooth, beautiful. This, like, I would fight somebody over this. If somebody tried to take it, like, we're gonna fight, because it's so beautiful. I love the color story, and I love the packaging, and I want to live inside of Venus Flytrap too. Number 2 goes to my Ensley Rain Lands of Enchantment. I have been using this palette so much. It is relatively new to my collection, but when I tell you I keep reaching for this palette, I love it. I have to say, I actually prefer the back cover of this, so I like to sit it in my collection like this, that beautiful castle. Like, I want to live there. Hello, it's so gorgeous. We have a beautiful mirror inside. Look at this color story. There is no shade in here that repeats itself, even in a large palette like this. They're all unique. They're all thoughtfully placed in this palette. The holochromes in here, holochrome, like they do their job. They know what they are here to do. So incredibly sparkly. Moon Magic is such a strong multi-chrome shift. It is like blue, green, black. Like, it's one of the best shadows. One of the best shadows in my collection for sure. I also find myself dipping into True Essence a lot. I think it's beautiful. I knew I was going to love this palette when I saw the sneak peeks. I'm like, if they do a color story based on this, it's going to be beautiful. I'm going to love it. I saw the palette and I'm like, I need this. Like, I need it. And then when I got it in person, I fell harder in love. Then when I played with it, I fell more in love. It is so good. I am honestly like speechless. You're like, girl, you've been talking for a long time. You are not speechless. There are more words I would love to say, but my brain cannot handle it. Like, there's something about the colors that all work together. And when I pull out this palette, it's easy because everything works together. But then I also am like, but I want to use this shade and this shade and this shade. So it keeps me feeling creative and fun. Oh, I love this one. Now, if you've been watching my videos all year, I've been hinting. I'm like, this palette is going to be a favorite, y'all. It's going to be a favorite, y'all. It's going to be one of the best of the year. And it is what I have on today. It is the Adept Cosmetics Inspired palette. Who here is shocked that normally watches my videos? Not a single soul. Because look at it. It's green to the next level, but not just monochromatic green, okay? This palette, it also pairs beautifully with my collab palette with Adept. Like, the greens in there, the blues in there. Like, okay. This shade right here, yellowy green neon. What? This murky color right here literally looks like I went to a swamp in Mississippi and scooped up some moss, and this is what I get. This like pastel bright, like, do you see my look? And it was so easy because every shade in here works so well together. I love the dark shades. I love the light shades. Then we come up to the multi-chromes. I love that we have the green multi-chromes, but I also love that Adept chose to pull in some blue shades and like magenta. What? Like, and do you see the magenta? Like, but look how it shifts. The shades in here are so well chosen. I'm wearing this shade right here on my inner corner. It's like this flaky type of formula. They put their best foot forward. Let me tell you that. The multi-chromes have such a strong shift. Some of the multi-chromes are very smooth in texture. Some of them more sparkly in texture. Some of them more flaky. This palette is so dang amazing. I can't. I love it. This was one when it first launched. I literally had to put it in the back of my drawer because I kept using it and I'm like, I have other things to work with. I tried to like put it in the back, like kind of like out of sight, but honey, it was never out of mind. Like never out of mind because it's so good and I love it. And I had so much fun doing this ranking. I definitely stressed about it. It's a lot of work, but I had fun and I hope that you had fun watching it because I love reviewing makeup. I hope that you are excited to see this ranking. I can't wait to post it. Don't want to edit it, but by the time you're seeing it, all that is done. Thank you so much for watching. Everything will be linked down below. Do let me know, would you like to see the collaboration palette video? I definitely want to do that because there were some great collabs, but I want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having an amazing day and I will see you very soon in another one. Bye.